This is the Rose City Yarn Crawl, a 4-day extravaganza with 8 yarn stores, dozens of trunk shows, all over Portland, Oregon. This has to be one of the most jam-packed yarn crawls that we have ever been on. It is full of so many amazing things, like the trunk shows really stood out to us. Plus, they have a pattern knit and crochet for the entire crawl. And each of the 8 stores also had a knit and crochet pattern that you got for free when you made a purchase there. Now, I'm gonna share all of the details throughout this video, but we're gonna go store by store and see what we saw on those days. When we were actually in the stores, it was really busy and crowded and too loud to actually talk about it. So that's why you have me here sitting at our Airbnb in front of this cool, wood-burning stove, I think. I thought that would be a cool backdrop. I am surrounded by all of my yarn, and with that, let's get into day 1. We started the yarn crawl on the very first day, which was Thursday, and we decided to go out to the Knotty Lamb. Now, this may be the only store that doesn't have a Portland address. It is the one that is the furthest away, but they had some really big draws with their trunk shows. So on Thursday, they had 2 trunk shows. They had our friends, Addie and Devin of Ruby and Roses, and then they had a couple from Utah. The dyer's name is Alicia, and they are Yarn Nouveau. So the Yarn Nouveau was really, really pretty. It was like all these moody, rich tonals, and it was going really, really fast. And then you'll get to see all of the Ruby and Roses yarn as well. We actually got to set up with Addie and Devin this day, and we recorded a whole video with them that will come out in a few weeks, all about the behind the scenes of a trunk show, in case you've ever wondered what exactly it takes to put one of these on. Spoiler, it's a lot of work, but it is really, really cool. Now, the Knotty Lamb is quite a large shop, and there is so much there. They have their own spin cycle yarn, which is this really beautiful greens and yellows and all kinds of other colors in there, as spin cycle tends to be. They stock a lot of hand-dyed yarn. They stock a lot of things you could use for garments and non-super washes. They also have their own yarn line, and that's where I had to make sure I purchased something. So their yarn line is called Lamb Good, and Karen, the owner of the shop, is the dyer. So this color that I got is their Flock colorway from last year. Flock is a what is it called? A show that happens up here. I think it's in Seattle. I'm hoping we can go this year. But how beautiful is this colorway? So this will be going into my blanket. I also had to make sure that I got the Ruby and Roses show colorway, which was called Flora and Fauna, which, by the way, that is the theme this year for the entire yarn crawl. Thursday afternoon, we made our way to our second yarn store, which is Northwest Wools. Now, this claims to be the oldest yarn store in Portland. The owner, Heidi, is the 4th owner of this shop, and I believe they are in maybe their 2nd location. She said the early history of the store is a little bit murky, but Heidi was great and very welcoming. Now, this store is in kind of a cute little walkable downtown kind of area, not downtown Portland, but I don't know the neighborhoods very well. Every neighborhood in Portland was so much fun, and all the yarn shops seemed to be in a different one that was really, really cute. But this, even though it's like a shopping strip kind of thing, the actual store kind of felt like an old house. There was different rooms to go through, a hallway to walk down. It was really unique and really different. There were 2 trunk shows going on this way. The first one is Garage Dye Works, and they dye out of Hillsboro, Oregon, which is not too far away. They had lots and lots of really fun, bright colors. I ended up getting this one, which is called Ultimate Project Bag. The dyer said that they dyed it after one of their favorite project bags, and they didn't have it with them. They said maybe next time they'll bring it along so they can show it with this. The second trunk show was Fiona K, and we got to meet the dyer, Fiona, who also works at the store, and they had 4 show colorways. They were available in full skeins, but because I'm shopping for my blanket when we go to all of these yarn stores, it is always fun for me to be able to get mini skeins because then I can put more colors into my blanket. So I had to get all of them. I do have all the colorway names in my phone. I took a picture of all the full skeins. They're not labeled explicitly on here, but Fiona's whole theme is very much like neons and brights and then like kind of like gothy colors. So that was really fun and a little bit different to see at the store. Now we're off to our final shop of day 1, and this is For Yarn's Sake. This store is maybe the biggest store. It's really, really big. It is huge. It's like two like store locations, I believe, and they have a ton of great stuff. It was also very easy to maneuver around the store because I think they had the space, they had wider aisles and things to go through. So something I was looking forward to seeing at the store was the Knitted Wit trunk show and to meet the dyer. And unfortunately, we were too late in the day. They had already sold out of all the stock that they brought for the show and were no longer there. So that was sad. I didn't get to meet them, but there was tons of Knitted Wit yarn in stock at For Yarn's Sake. So I ended up shopping for some of that. I'll show you that in just a second. For Yarn's Sake is a Rowan flagship store. So if you're somebody that's looking for Rowan, this can be kind of harder to find here in the US, and they had quite a bit of it. They are also a Woolfolk flagship store, so they had an entire wall of Woolfolk yarn. We're going to first spot here something that we'll start to see at a couple of the other stores, and that is a local potter. It's actually 2 women who make these together, and they're either J and M PDX or Jam PDX. I'm not actually sure exactly how they say that, but they make this really fun pottery. They had some yarn bowls and some like teacups and saucers and little plates and all kinds of really fun things. Now, I said before, every single store has their own knit and crochet pattern, and I'm pretty sure all of them were shawls because, you know, that's very much something that everyone can make, everyone can wear. So at For Yarn's Sake, they had kits put together for their shawls. They had a knit one that was assigned pooling and a crochet one that was also assigned pooling. And then they had Dream in Color make this specific colorway called Razzle Dazzle, and it is the Rose City Yarn Crawl colorway. So that was really fun. I decided to just get one skein. I didn't get it for the kit, but I wanted to put it into my blanket, so I won't be doing assigned pooling with it, but I did want to make sure I got that. And then I wanted to get some Knitted Wit, even though I didn't get to meet her. I wanted to get some things that reminded me of my time here in Portland. So this one is called Quack Attack, and it is inspired by the Oregon Ducks, which is the college in Eugene nearby-ish, not really. And then this one's really fun. This is PDX carpet. So the carpet at the airport has these colors like exactly. It is spot on, and again, gonna be really fun for my blanket. At the end of the day, we went back to the Knotty Lamb to help Addie and Devin close out the trunk show, and we just couldn't possibly have made any other stores on that day. But there were quite a few people who went to all 8 stores on day 1, on Thursday. And at each of the stores, you could check in and enter for different prizes. And also you could get your passport stamped. It was basically just a piece of paper with each of the different shops' logos. And then each of the shops had somebody there stamping your passport. And then I think you could enter that for a grand prize. But it was really impressive for anyone who got to all 8 shops. I guess it's nice that it is possible to do so, but I think you'll see that more people decided to kind of divide it up over the weekend. You could even go to just 2 shops per day, because there's 4 days and 8 shops, or you can go back to some of the stores, because every single day the trunk shows changed at the stores. I'm telling you, there was so much stuff. This whole yarn crawl was so jam-packed. So for us, we are going to head on to day 2, where we are going to visit the rest of the 5 shops. Friday morning, we started out in another really, really cute area. We actually ended up back in that area on Saturday night to go to a brewery. It was just really fun. There was also a great vegan bakery and coffee shop literally in between 2 shops that were walking distance from each other. So the first one we went to was Ritual Dyes. We got to meet Rachel, who is the owner of Ritual Dyes, and also Martha. So Rachel and Martha dye all of the Ritual Dyes yarn together. Ritual Dyes is a really cute shop. It's a little bit smaller than some of the other ones, but it has a ton of options. So of course they have their own yarn in there, and then they also had a handful of trunk shows that day. They had Ching fibers out of London. They had Farmer's Daughter fibers out of Montana. Then they also had a person who dyed all of these bats, all of this fiber. I swear I'm going to get into spinning after we are done traveling around the country. Also there that day was Kin, who makes all of these beaded jewelry, and their company is called Reiko Co. And there was a lot of jewelry there that day that was granny square inspired. Perfect for all of the knitters and crocheters. There were other things too, but it was the granny squares that really caught my eye. So I ended up getting these earrings that are hand beaded, and each of them were unique. So no 2 were alike, and no sets were alike. Like you couldn't have like 2 that looked exactly like this. So that was really fun, and I loved getting that. I don't really have a lot of jewelry, but if I'm gonna have jewelry, I want it to be something that I love. I got some other things while we were there. So I had to get, of course, the show colorway. So they did something fun where they had a show colorway for in-store, which was this one. It is called Frogberry. And then they had a show colorway that was online only. So even if you were not able to come in person, whether you're in Portland or around the world, you could order that color and you could only get it online, which I thought was pretty cool. And then I was keeping my eye out for some non-superwash yarn that I could make a shrug for when I am hiking. And so I decided to get this yarn here. This is a little dirty from sitting on the floor. This is their Maven base. It's a 2-ply fingering, 100% Rambouillet. and it's just got a really nice feel to it, really nice and lightweight. So I just needed a few skeins of it. It's got, let's see, it's a 50-gram skein. I only needed like 600 yards. So it's kind of this like steely gray. It's coming off pretty blue on the camera, but it's a really nice neutral color, and I'm excited to make myself a shrub with that. After that, we headed down the street to Fiber Rhythm. And you may be thinking, oh my gosh, there's 2 yarn stores that are walking distance from each other. That's wild. But they actually carry very different things. So in Fiber Rhythm, the owner, Dawn, showed us around the craft space. And this is definitely the most unique thing about this space. So they have all of these different machines that you can take private lessons to learn how to use and then rent time on them. So they had a loom to weave on, they had a Cricut you could make things on, a circular sock machine, a knitting, actually 2 knitting machines. And it was fascinating to learn about the knitting machines because I had this assumption that knitting machines were just, kind of something that was maybe easier to do and faster than hand knitting. And they are still faster than hand knitting, but there's so much skill that goes into setting these up. You can't just use a knitting machine and like be a knitter instantly. And then there was all these amazing swatches of different things you could do on a knitting machine, like Fair Isle and lace and all kinds of stuff that I had no idea was even possible. So if you are local to Portland and you're looking to learn one of these skills, you can, again, take a private lesson. And then instead of having to invest in your own circular sock machine or something like that, you may want to rent some time and try it out yourself and see if it's something that you'd like to buy. There were a couple of trunk shows going on that day. The first one was Argent Girl, who is Teresa. Teresa had brought a bunch of different patterns, all kinds of fun hats and shawls. She's got several books, and we enjoyed looking through all of those things. We also got to meet Iris of Reflective Society, and Iris makes all of these different accessories for if you're a biker or a runner or just somebody who likes the reflective materials. It will keep you safer outside. So there were dog bandanas, shoelaces, bootlaces, and then there were some knitted and crocheted items with reflective yarn in them, and also some really cool clothing pieces that had reflective material sewn into them. Speaking of reflective yarn, there was some of that available for sale at Fiber Rhythm. They had a spot set up where you could walk and stand on these footsteps and then look at the reflective yarn. And if you got it at just the right light, you could see how it would actually reflect light when, somebody is driving towards you and their headlights are reflecting off of you. So I thought that was really cool. You could buy, finished items made with the reflective yarn or buy some of the yarn yourself and make something up. Next up, we have Weird Sisters. And this one is really fun because not only is it a yarn store, but it is a bookstore as well. So these two friends, Fuchsia and Christine, own the store together. So Fuchsia owns the yarn store, Christine owns Two Rivers Bookstore. And all throughout the store, there are kind of books and yarn mixed in together. So it's one shop. You go in and things are everywhere. There are novels, there are cookbooks, and then there's, of course, the yarn. And there was a lot of yarn in there. So many fun things to choose from. And I think like 4 trunk shows. So let's get into those. On Friday, they had Britt from Not Bad Britt, who is a crochet designer. We got to chat and meet in person for the first time, which was really fun, and look through all of their designs. And then Britt also designed the, let me make sure I'm saying this right, the Penstemon shawl, which was the crochet design for the Weird Sisters. Now, everyone had that whole flora and fauna theme for the entire crawl. Penstemon is a flower, but it also had these like spidery vibes, and you'll see that the other design as well was like spidery vibes at this store, which was really fun and kind of a different take on all of that. They also had Michelle of Brioness Made, another potter here, but you're gonna see that these are so unique. There were yarn bowls and mugs, and it was just super intricate designs. So the yarn bowls were so cool because they had these little fireplaces and all these trinkets all over them. And then a lot of the mugs did too. It looked like, brick by brick on these mugs with little fireplaces. And then I know Michelle said she takes the time to make each of those pieces of wood, even though they are clay, or maybe that's not the right word. They're not wood, but they look identical to wood. It was just incredible detail, and they were so, so beautiful. Then we got to meet Rita of Ex Libras, and is that right? Libras? Yes. Okay. And Rita is a former librarian, and all of their yarn is inspired by books. So there were books set next to yarn sets, and then there was a special one for the yarn crawl. The Mexican Gothic is the book, and there was like a kit and a shawl and all of these different things that we will show you. I ended up getting a set of minis, again for my blanket, and these ones are based on the book Braiding Sweetgrass, which I have not seen before, but each of these minis is, there's some tonal in here and a couple that are like 2 different colors. Each of them has a name, which I'm excited about, which is really fun. And I think they're going to be really pretty for my blanket. Now, something that really catches your eye when you walk in the store is the button trunk show that was going on. I mean, there were just buttons galore. So this is Julie, who is textile division, but also operates under Department of Work and does some cast iron restoration. So this is the only time of year that you can go and see all of Julie's buttons, because this is her personal collection of vintage buttons that she finds and refinishes, and cards and all of that. Other times of year, you may be able to find her at Josephine's Dry Goods, which is another place in Portland. But she was really passionate about talking about the buttons and very excited that she gets to come back to Weird Sisters, I guess multiple years in a row, and that people are really excited to come and shop for buttons, because that's just not something that you can find, at every single place in every single city. We have 2 more shops to go to. So we headed next to close knit. The owner, Sally, unfortunately wasn't there that day, so we didn't get to meet, but we really enjoyed going into the store. So close knit, I don't know if it's inspired by the shop at all, but it was very much a cozy shop. Like, it was a good size, but there was a lot of things in there, and there was like a seating area, and it was the yarn crawl. So it was busy and people were making their way around. So we got as much footage as we could in the store, but it was a little bit different, I would say, in the way that it was laid out. Like, it was very much felt homey, and there were kind of like armoires with yarn in them. And again, like, it was like a living room set in there, and it was just really, really fun. You'll find, I think, a lot of commercial options in the store, but then also a lot of hand knitted items. There were kind of two trunk shows in conjunction going on here. One was a yarn, and we'll put that name on the screen because I didn't get the chance to write it down here on my notes. I know it starts with an A, and I had not seen them before, but standing there with the trunk show was not the yarn dyer. Instead, it was Mackenzie of Hanks and Needles, who was the designer of the knit shawl pattern for the entire crawl. So there was a mystery crochet along and a mystery knit along for the entire crawl that happened before, and you could see a lot of people wearing their finished items during the crawl. So the knitted one was a lot of different textures, beads, and all kinds of things, and the crochet one was similar but different. It had beaded options, it had different textures, and it was a shawl. So it was fun to see all the different versions that people had. We enjoyed getting to know Mackenzie and seeing all of her different designs. She had a lot of really pretty cable shawl patterns. Also, a lot of really great sock patterns that were knit up out of the trunk show yarn. By this time, I had purchased a lot of yarn for my blanket, so other things were starting to catch my eye, as in this beautiful bag. So this is from C.H. Eliza Knit. There were lots of different ones in a similar like style, and also drawstring project bags as well, but I really liked this one because of its size and how open it was. And it's great because my project that I was working on all weekend, my traveler's loop, was getting too big for my zipper pouch. But what else I liked about it is it has 3 pockets in here, and they're perfect for things that I need with me often, like a little packet of tissues. I've got hand lotion for winter, you know, it's dry. I've got my notions pouch and the bigger one. I even have, it looks like I've got my sunglasses in here. Didn't realize that. So I am already loving and using this bag. And I just thought that with the fabric, it went really well with the flora and fauna theme. Finally, we're going to make our way over to Starlight. Now, this store is a really just like cool store. It's kind of on its own block a little bit, and it has 2 nice big doors and lots of light that comes in, and kind of like 2 spaces. I don't know. It seems really, really cool. They had things jam-packed in there, as with all of the other ones. There was a one trunk show that had somebody stationed there, and we're gonna see some cross stitch, I think, for the first time on the crawl. So this was June Bug and Darling, and they had a lot of really fun different cross stitch kits all put up. So there was everything you needed in the kit. They even had one for Starlight, and it was called Starlit Owl. And I think that one is there most of the time. It was kind of in a separate place, so I'm not sure if it's always there or you could only get it during the crawl. Then they had 2 big tables of other trunk shows that were, I don't know how to call them, like an unmanned trunk show. They were just there and ready. The actual dyer wasn't there, but they were there and you could shop them only on that day. And then I know on some of the other days that we did not go back to, because we just did 2 concentrated days of crawling. That was enough for us going at such a fast pace. But I know they had back beautiful sisters. I got to meet them that night. And who else did they have? I don't know, just like a lot of really fantastic different dyers and different things at their store. Another thing that was really fun about Starlight is they have a library ladder, and one of the employees was using the ladder to like get stock up high and put it back out. And so we were looking at it and they were like, get on the ladder. And I'm like, I don't want to. I don't want to break the rules. And they were like, no, it's fine. So I just like stood on the bottom step on the ladder, but please know that you're not supposed to do this without permission. We had permission to do it, and it was very fun because it made me feel like Belle. Now, we didn't just hang around at Starlight to shop. We also stayed for their knit night, or knit and crochet night, really stitch night. So in between their closing and kind of, I guess they didn't actually close, but when the shopping ended at 6 o'clock, or their official hours, they then had their knit night. And I think normally it's on maybe Wednesday or some other night of the week, but they moved it to Friday for the crawl, which was amazing. So we weren't there when the transition happened. We went into the store, filmed, left, and came back for the knit night, but they had somehow transformed everything and had all the tables clear and tons of chairs set up. They even had chairs set up outside with a little fire pit so people could come and knit and crochet. And it was really fun. I got to meet some Love and Stitches members. I got to meet some different dyers and bag makers and all kinds of things. And so it was a great way to kind of end our crawl, even though the crawl wasn't over yet, because it continued on Saturday and Sunday with even more dyers and more things to go and shop for. For us, it was the end of the crawl, and it was just a lovely way to do it. If I haven't convinced you already, definitely you need to think about coming out for the Rose City Yarn Crawl. It's been so fun. It was so well put together, so organized, just again, jam-packed of things. There's a reason that people who live here in Portland continue to go year after year, go back to the same stores multiple times throughout the crawl. It's because they just have incredible things at the stores. And we had a really good time with everything. And then just being in Portland, we spent a day going out to the coast, and then we spent another day just exploring Portland itself without doing anything yarny. And it's a really fun city to do it in. Thank you so much for watching this. We have some more yarn crawls coming up, and of course more yarn store tours. So I hope to see you in the next one.